Let's start, though, with what I think is maybe one of the underappreciated storylines in all of politics right now. Obviously, what we're seeing in the state of Texas is Democrats realizing actually what Wisconsin Democrats thought that they had realized in 2011. The National Party never quite caught up to it, but that what their base wanted to see from them was staunch, intense, bold resistance to, at that time, it was Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker and his Act 10 policies. But now, Texas Democrats believe that the base wants them to stand up on this question of gerrymandering and fled the state, preventing a quorum. Republicans, you'll notice, are trying to fight back just as tough. And so the significance of this, I mean, obviously there are real electoral downstream effects that will come of all of it. But I think this is a story that tells us a lot about our politics right now, and it tells us something really important about the Democratic Party that a couple of Democrats are waking up and realizing. And you may not like Beto O'Rourke, but I'm about to play a video which I think shows that Beto O'Rourke is really on the cutting edge of where Democratic Party politics are headed. And let me just say, if you're a centrist, if you're a sort of someone who just votes for the best candidate, goes back and forth, not super interested in the labels, man, are the next 10 years probably going to be rough for you. So let's go ahead and roll this clip of Beto O'Rourke.
We are in a basketball game right now, if you'll excuse the metaphor, where the refs have left the arena. And the other side is just clobbering the shit out of us, just punching us in the face, kicking us in the nuts. And we're kind of throwing our hands up and we're asking the crowd, the people of America, hey, do you see what's going on here? This is unfair. This isn't the rules that we agreed to play by. Well, who cares about the fucking rules right now? Punch back, kick back, dunk over their heads, and win some fucking power.
Dunk over their heads and win some power. Now, if you're on the right, that clip probably does feel a little cringy to you, right? You see that sort of the really all the F-bombs, and it feels from a lot of Democrats, especially if you're like a privileged white guy like Beto O'Rourke, it feels a little bit like he's putting on a show, a little performative, of course. And I think there's something to that. I think there are Democrats, mainstream high-profile Democrats, who do that worse and are much cringier than Beto when he does it. But we've talked about this on that show. We've talked about this on the show. The Democrats right now are in a position where they're starting to realize they have the sentiment in their base that Republicans had during the Tea Party years. And Donald Trump came along in 2016 and made it impossible for the Republicans to continue ignoring the Tea Party base, which said, I despise the Republican Party establishment as much as I despise the Democrats. What are you telling me, that I should trust John Boehner over Nancy Pelosi? John Boehner is supposed to believe what I believe and share my values and represent them and run a House of Representatives that represents where I am. And John Boehner does not do that. It's almost worse in a way than Nancy Pelosi. And I'm paraphrasing arguments that were much more common in 2010, 2012. And when the 2012 Republican autopsy report came out that said, we're going to diagnose what went wrong in Mitt Romney's loss, it, of course, infamously now, recommended a path of moderation as the path to electoral success. None of this had anything to do with the morality of the policies, of course, but you need to moderate on immigration. You need to moderate on social issues. This is what the RNC prescribed after Mitt Romney's loss. And what Donald Trump did was come along and say, actually, there's a path to victory that also allows you to get what you want on a moral level, on a policy level. And he turned it all completely upside down. Democrats haven't really listened because the Democratic establishment hasn't had a Trump-like wrecking ball. And Trump is like the only Trump-like wrecking ball that'll ever exist. He's singular, and he will always be singular in the history of American politics. But Democrats haven't had any force come along and knock them back off their feet and say, you guys have to at least give some significant wins when it comes to breaking with your establishment priorities. And that might not even mean anything serious, right? We saw in 2020 a bunch of corporatist, centrist Dems come along and say, wow, this Bernie Sanders guy did really well in 2016. Let's all be for Medicare for all. Let's all play footsie with abolish ICE and defund the police. Let's all be fully on board with the furthest, most radical policies when it comes to transgenderism. Let's, I think it was like even Kirsten Gillibrand, swear off corporate PAC donations, which is another thing Ken Martin over at the DNC is seriously considering right now. That was in the New York Times today. And what I mean by all of this is Democrats at least postured a little bit towards Bernie Sandersism, right? And I think Joe Biden's, I wrote about it at the time, McClatchy did an analysis of Joe Biden's platform in 2020 and said it was the most radical Democratic Party platform in modern history. And the one before that had been the most radical Democratic platform in party history, the furthest left. I shouldn't say radical. I believe the word they used was furthest left, most progressive. The one right before that was Hillary Clinton in 2016. And how did Joe Biden govern? Well, in a way that left the left deeply, deeply unsatisfied with their party leadership. And is it policy or is it vibes? I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. I think the same was true in the Tea Party era because the Tea Party was up in arms about the national debt and these ballooning entitlement costs. And where did that lead everyone? Well, to a movement right now where you do still have some debt and deficit hawks. You do still have some people who are absolutely furious about government spending, about no audit of the Pentagon being able to be completed satisfactorily, never being able to get anyone to really do it. People are still deeply angry about some of the same things, but it's really how those frustrations are channeled. And in the case of Democrats right now, this is one of the reasons that they were never able to have or to keep Joe Rogan. And it's why they haven't really been able to compete with a Joe Rogan, except for basically one guy. In all seriousness, Hasan Piker. And we can go ahead and put this GQ headline on the screen. Hasan got a splashy profile in GQ that was published just today. And the headline is Hasan Piker thinks America might be cooked. Now, if you don't know who Hasan Piker is, he's like a Twitch streamer who is incredibly, let's say, irreverent and deeply anti-American. I think he would probably agree with that. One of his most controversial statements is, I'll say it's very offensive to many people, but that America deserved 9/11. When he says things, he's sort of often misunderstood because people don't realize the nihilism that infects every corner of like Zoomer streaming of the Zoomer streaming ecosystem. So a lot of it, honestly, is it's an attempt to like find purpose, meaning, and the guy is like chewing through every Zen within 3 square feet of himself to get like a little bit of a buzz. And listen, Gen Z doesn't have a lot of sex or drink a lot of booze, but they do get high on saying crazy shit on the internet. And Hasan is one of those people. Let's put F2 on the screen. This was his comment on Zoran Mamdani. He said, quote, "Big Z's the man. He's great. He's going to implement woke Sharia in New York. Very excited about that. All the buildings have to face Mecca." That kind of good stuff. And like, listen, Hasan Piker can be enormously cringe, and so can the people who write about him. I'm going to put this up on the screen. Someone pulled this part from the GQ article where the writer says, as Piker burns through his 70-minute workout, exhausting himself in the process, he strips his shirt off. An army of girls and gays, not to mention admiring looks maxers, would kill to be where I am right now. Next to Piker, as he pants in a pair of neon shorts with black Calvin Klein boxers poking out and sunlight glinting off the sweat beaded on his chest beards. beat it on his chest hairs. Oh, I botched the ending. Maybe I should read the last line again. No, I'll spare you. I needn't do that. But like the fandom over Hasan Piker feels really desperate sometimes. Like people are just looking for anything on the left to cling to that looks like it might be masculine and that it looks like it might be irreverent in a way that, frankly, Amy Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg just couldn't pull off. And so I get why this GQ writer is clearly enormously aroused by Hasan Piker. Mentally, of course. I don't mean physically, although it sure sounds like he's physically aroused by, I think that the author was a man, by Hasan Piker. But there's a desperation, right? It smacks of desperation. But it's actually, I mean, I think with Piker, he's as, and this is one of the big takeaways that people should have if they're looking into the guy, he's as critical of the Democratic Party establishment as any Tea Party Republican was of the Republican Party establishment in 2012. And this is where, again, could Kamala Harris do a good job on the Joe Rogan Experience? Absolutely not, because she is not willing to go beyond platitudes when it comes to excoriating the uniparty. Hasan Piker, no fan of Republicans, no friend of conservatives, but he has that same frustration at the uniparty that people had on the right in 2010 and 2012. And the only reason the Republican Party paid a modicum of attention to it, and I'm as deeply cynical as I am generally, I'm not really that cynical about the downstream effects of populism on the Republican Party, because whatever happens in the second Trump administration, Republican voters have relearned some, I think, really good impulses, like questioning the military-industrial complex. Not everyone, but that is now a significant seat at the table in Republican politics. And there are people who are going to try to force this on the Democratic Party. Let me put one more thing up on the screen. This was a really good observation from Prem Thacker, who pointed out that Andrew Cuomo just put out a tweet. He says, being a progressive means making real progress. There's only one candidate in this race who's passed a bill supported by Bernie Sanders. Surprise, that's me. I'm a progressive because I believe in getting things done for people who need it. And Prem responded, the political atmosphere in the U.S. has changed so much that the establishment candidate is now trying to insist that he's more like Bernie Sanders, which is funny. And again, on a policy level, if you're a conservative, you look at that and you say, well, I'm not sure that I want Democrats to be more like Bernie Sanders on, again, like a policy front. Although I suppose it depends on the policy. Bernie can have some interesting observation on, for example, credit card companies and Wall Street. And, he used to be a little bit Maha, not so Maha anymore, if you remember those confirmation hearings. But this is the direction that the Democratic base wants to go. I'm not talking about the average Democratic Party voter. I'm talking about the base, the party faithfuls, the grassroots. And for a long time, the party elite have ignored them. And this is what created a kettle that was boiling over for the Tea Party. So Dems, by ignoring these forces and not even trying to address them in a meaningful political way, have shot themselves in the foot. They have been way too defensive of their party infrastructure and the official apparatus of the Democratic Party. And it's about to come back to haunt them because they poured gasoline on the fire that is this appetite for complete and total upheaval for the better part of a decade now. And Republicans got a taste of what that's like, got a taste of that populism, and Democrats shut down Bernie Sanders' campaign over and over again. And voters never forgot that. The base never forgot that. And the base now feels like Bernie Sanders was widely, or let's just say broadly, vindicated because they saw the entire party establishment lie about Joe Biden's mental capacity. The party base was furious at the Biden administration when it came to Israel. We can debate whether that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that they're furious about it. And so that's where the Democratic elite find themselves right now. And whether it's Zohran Mamdani, and again, that's deep blue New York, of course, but we're not talking again about your average Democrat. at the union hall or at the PTA meeting. We're talking about the party faithfuls, the grassroots, who often steer primary battles, who the media is often very responsive to, and it's not insignificant. And many people, political scientists, look at how the base controls politics because of the primary system and say it's a bad thing. I don't really agree with that, but it's definitely, when you're in a highly polarized environment, one that keeps you ping-ponging back and forth from populist left and populist right at this moment in our history. So Dems, I think, are in for a wake-up call again, whether it's Beto or Zoran or Hasan Piker. Suddenly people are starting to be responsive. Or Andrew Cuomo, by the way. Cuomo and Beto are good examples of guys who are closer to the like mainstream. They're not considered like crunchy hippie leftists, but they're adopting a tone. And whether that trickles into policy is another question. I think probably it does on certain issue areas, but it's really going to be what the test is really going to be for any Democrat that wants to make it in the new media ecosystem, but more importantly, with the Democratic Party base that is consuming that new media ecosystem. The test for them is going to be how much they can match these sentiments. And I think that's not as well understood as it probably should be. Well, over the years, I've been clear about this. I'm not just pro-birth, I'm pro-life. And being pro-life, of course, means standing with mothers, not only before their baby is born, but long after. And that is exactly why I partner very proudly with Preborn. Preborn doesn't just save babies, they make motherhood abundantly possible. They provide free ultrasounds and share the truth of the gospel with women in crisis, and then they stay with real practical help, including financial support for up to 2 years after the baby is born. Amazing. This is what true Christ-centered compassion looks like, not just for that little baby, but for the mother too. And here's where you can make a difference. Just $28 provides a free life-saving ultrasound. One chance for a mother to see her baby, and when she does, she's twice as likely to choose life. Preborn is trying to save 70,000 babies this year, so don't just say you're pro-life. Live it. Help save babies and support mothers today. Go to preborn.com/Emily or call 855-601-2229. That's preborn.com/Emily.